Hello and welcome back to another day of chemistry, 8th grade science students. Today we're going to be looking at trends in the periodic table, and we're going to be looking at this activity. So you will have, maybe you've already looked at the video for the PowerPoint, and maybe you started with this. Either way, make sure that you do both. Okay, so today we'll be building our own periodic table. And if you understood the basics behind the Bohr model activity, this should be pretty easy for you. But if you didn't, this will be good practice, help you to get where you need to be in understanding that. Okay, so in order to do this activity, you're going to have to print off at least 3 pages. So this should be the front of the first page, and this is what the back of the first page should look like. And you can print these off in 2 different pages, it doesn't matter. But it's important on this next one that this page has a blank back to it, and this page also has a blank back to it. The reason why we want that is because you will be cutting these squares out, and if you print this one and this one back to back, you won't be able to use those cards. So make sure that you print these each on its own piece of paper, at least the element squares, the element boxes. Okay, so for each of those element boxes, you're going to fill out this information by using a periodic table. So follow each of these steps as you follow each of these steps. So step 1, you're going to complete the squares for each of the elements by adding the atomic number and the name and the mass. So finding this information, we're going to fill in this and this and this for each of your squares. Now you can do the whole square, like if you want to do boron, you want to fill in the whole square at one time, or you can just fill in each piece if you want to, whichever way you think is going to go faster for you. Step number 2, you're going to determine the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So here, remember the number of protons is equal to the atomic number. The number of electrons, assuming it's neutral, that it's not an ion, this is also the same as the atomic number. And then the number of neutrons, what we do is we take the mass, we round that, so that mass is going to be 11. We subtract the number of protons, which is 5, and that gives us the number of neutrons, which is 6. So that's the answer you would write there. Okay, so once you've got that for this, you've got more than half the work done. All right, so the next step is, step number 3, is to create a Bohr diagram for each element. So remember, the inside shell only holds 2 electrons. Then the next shell can hold up to 8 electrons. And when that is full, it spills into the third shell, which can also hold 8 electrons. Okay? All right, so creating the Bohr model diagram, big thing to remember is 2, 8, and then 8. Remember we said that was like a water fountain. The top layer of the water fountain can only hold 2 gallons, and when it overflows, when you have more than 2 gallons, it spills into the next layer of the fountain. And then that one fills, it spills into the next layer of the fountain. So yeah, so if you remember that will help you out as to how many electrons per ring. And then you are also going to want to remember to arrange these. See how they're in north, south, then west, then east. So arrange them in those areas like a compass rose, and then it's much easier to see that you drew everything the right way. You counted out the right number. Okay, so once you're done with that, we're going to move on to the Lewis structure. And remember, the Lewis structure only includes the valence electrons. And valence electrons, sorry, you can't write in that corner. I don't know why. Okay, the valence electrons starts with a V. Those are the ones in the very outside. Those are the ones of the very outside shell. And all you have to do for the Lewis structure then is take the symbol for that element and you surround it by the number of electrons in the valence shell. So that would be, here's 1, 2, 3, and so we have 3 valence electrons drawn here. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense, and go ahead and fill in all of your your element cards, and then you can pause this video, fill all those in, and then come back and we'll go over the next step. Okay, so welcome back. So now the next step, what you're going to do is just to follow step number 5. You are going to color in this little circle, or this little square here. So it says, use the following colors to shade in the square for the element. You should only color this square right here. This square right here. Just color that in, don't color in the whole thing, the whole box, the whole card. Just that little box there. Okay, so this tells you the colors for each of the elements. So lithium and sodium are going to be green, and oxygen and sulfur are going to be pink. Okay, so go ahead, pause this, and color in that little square. This one shouldn't take you very long. Okay, so welcome back. And so from here on out, before you go into step 6, what I want you to do is you are going to open up the key that I placed on here, and you're going to correct, especially looking at, correct the Bohr diagram, correct this, and correct these. These are going to be super important for you to answer the answers correctly on the back of this page. So usually when we're doing this in person, I'm walking around, I'm looking at what you're doing, and I am able to give you feedback on how you're doing in filling out these cards. So since I don't have that option, I'm going to give you access to the key so you can check to make sure you've done all of these correctly. Okay, so go ahead, when this video stops, go ahead and open that key, correct anything that is not right on your elemental cards, if there is anything wrong, and then go ahead and start the next video. Okay.